Well, we're streaming. Oh, let me let
Kate step today.
She's there.
Okay.
Board member Chiposis is not.
I'm letting her in right now. Oh, we're streaming.
Is this executive? If it is, I apologize.
We're
It's
not an
Dr.
executive.
Lomax.
Okay, thank you.
No, this is not executive. No, this is not executive.
Letting her in right now.
We're not allowed to go into executive without starting regular. I need a pen. There we go.
Tom, I'm going to go ahead and give you hosting privileges.
Gracias.
Okay, we ready? We have not just a quorum, but all of us. So
Good.
I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we will begin. Just finding my agenda. There we go. Okay, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish, as ever. And this is a special meeting on March 11th of the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education. Anybody feeling inspired to lead the pledge in English or Spanish? I'm happy to do so. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el símbolo Zia de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. Thank you. And the acknowledgement of tribal land. We acknowledge the original people of the land, the Tesuque Pueblo people and other tribal nations, and ask them to walk with us today as we share and learn together. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to approval of the agenda. And just as a point of privilege to say, there were a lot of different ways and different suggestions to do this agenda. And if anyone feels strongly, I'm certainly happy to amend. The idea was, and the clear guidance from our board council is that we need to discuss the process and timeline, and anything not relating to particular names. That's when we can go into executive session. Limited personnel matters have to do with potential candidates for hire, but otherwise that we should be in open session and be transparent about what we're doing in terms of the process. This is, of course, one of the most important duties of a board is to hire a superintendent. So yeah, we'll work through this together and we'll be transparent with our community and get through some of the grieving potentially together as well. So is there a motion to approve the agenda? Does anyone want to suggest a different way to do it at this stage?
Madam
I
President,
move approval.
Okay, we have a motion from Dr. Gonzalez. Vice President Garcia.
I'd like to table item 3A.
The discussion of the letter of retirement from Dr. Garcia.
Yes. I understand that. It's just, we'll talk about it a little later, but I'll second the approval of the agenda.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion by Dr. Gonzalez, a second by Vice President Garcia, who has already made clear he's going to make all this hard for me. Any further discussion? We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote, starting with you, Rudy. You get unmute to vote.
Yes, I approve the agenda with hesitant, but yes, I do.
Okay. Secretary Bazay,
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Board Member Price,
With much sadness, yes.
and the president also votes yes.
Madam President, we can actually table it, right? And that just gets tabled to the next month or the next table after year after year.
So I had a whole discussion, and I don't know if our board council is on, and I even wrote to Dr. Garcia about the cognitive dissonance of what if we voted to not accept her letter of resignation, which is, I think, what you're getting at. And I may ask when we get there for Tony to explain this, but I suppose as I've thought about it, because I said, but we can just not accept it, right? And then what happens? But I think that it procedurally would hamstring us a little bit as I've thought about it, because we can't actually force her to stay. So we can get to that in a little bit. But for now, let's move on to Roman numeral 2, the introduction of interpreter. Dr. Garcia.
See, I'm sleeping on the job. You need to get rid of me. All right. Para servicio de traducción en español, marque 701-802-5152, número de acceso 4277932 #. Y por favor, tenga su teléfono en silencio cuando están escuchando. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Moving on to board discussion, and we can move through these things fairly quickly if we don't want to discuss now. We of course have plenty of a chance to discuss things later on as we look at action items and that sort of thing. But Roman numeral 3, board discussion, A, just to say it out loud, we have received a letter from Dr. Veronica C. Garcia, our superintendent, announcing her intention to retire at the end of this year, June 30th. Dr. Garcia, do you want to say anything for the record, for the board, for the
Wow.
millions watching?
I guess I was expecting not to have to say a whole lot. Everything that I wanted to say is in my letter, but I'll probably mess it up now. And it's been a week of tears, and it's hard because this has been a labor of love. I love the work. I'm passionate about it. It's not a job, it's a vocation. And I've never begrudged a single day or hour that I have given to it. I gave it my all. And maybe I didn't, I always, sometimes don't think about balance. And this year with the pandemic and everything that we were dealing with, it just, got out of balance. And it was a very hard decision. And as I've told Ms. Noble, and she says, stop telling me that. because I just want to think about what we could have done, but I wanted to finish my contract. I would have loved to have been here the full 7 years, give even better opportunity for our initiatives to take root, mentor, some of our newer members of the team, and keep going. I'm just so committed to our vision. It's a great board. I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful board to work with that keep me on my toes. A great team, great community partners. I've often said to people that I have felt more at home and more accepted and cared for in this community than I have in my own hometown. And I think that you can't be a prophet in your own village, maybe. I don't know what the deal was, but I always felt more at home here and always accepted here. So Santa Fe, just has a real special place in my heart. And when I was asked to come back, and when Tony called me and I was at an airport, little did I know that it was going to turn into a 5-year journey, and I don't want to say goodbye because we got 4 more years of important work to do. And I'll be forever grateful for this opportunity to have contributed to K-12 again on the ground. It's just really good to have done that again. And I believe that we accomplished a lot. We have a lot to be proud of. And we did it together, the community partners, the staff, the students, faculty. And I love this community and I love you guys. And thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to miss you very much.
Yeah. Anyone from the board want to comment?
I will not.
This is Lorraine.
Go
This is
ahead.
Lorraine.
Yes, go ahead, Lorraine.
Dr. Garcia, seems like we have been together for many, many years. And I just want you to know it has always been a wonderful journey with you. I have always had a great deal of deep respect for you when you were here as the superintendent before. And now, I'm telling you, I can't even begin to think about a replacement. Thank you for the years we've spent together, and thank you for the incredible job that you have done for the people, the students, the staff, and for us. I think I should stop.
Thank you, Ms. Price.
But I won't. But I won't, of course. But we're getting on. So we're getting on. I will miss you more than I think you could possibly know. Thank you for your time with us.
Thank you, Ms. Price. It means a lot. Thank you.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Dr. Garcia, I'm just happy I got to work with you for a year. I'm sorry that you're leaving and I still have time left on this board, but I'm really grateful for you and the leadership you provided this past year, this year of hell, has been amazing. And I will be forever grateful to you for that. And the citizens of Santa Fe should be as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, this is Rudy.
Go ahead, Rudy.
I'm still voting against your letter of retirement. Let you know that. So if I can get 2 or 3 votes, you're not going to go. Nonetheless, first of all, the first public education secretary under Governor Richardson, he did an excellent job back in those days, and he's still doing an excellent job. And I really, really appreciate the passion you have for kids and education, because sometimes people say, what about her? I say, that lady has passion. She has passion for education and the children and their families throughout the district. As you know, the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit that nobody probably doesn't realize how it works and what happened with that. And I never did till you were the main spokesperson on that lawsuit. And because today, whenever we actually took that lawsuit, we took that lawsuit forward to the state legislature and said, with all due respect to Mr. Chairman Smith, John Arthur Smith, you fought and you went forward for it. And we succeeded because of your knowledge that you had in the school system throughout the state of New Mexico. And you have a lot of knowledge because of the first public education secretary. Great job. You mentioned something, what we could have done. It's not what we could have done. With your leadership and your vision, we're actually going to move forward because you have a great team and you created a great team. And when you create a great team, that means it's almost like being in the military. I've never been in the military. However, I know a couple little girls that are actually, they go to West Point. And I learned that that flag that goes up every single day, they respect that flag. But you said what we could have done. We're still going to move forward because of the vision that you had and your team and the advice that you've given us, me actually. How do we get over there? Not to the mountain, get over the mountain. And I appreciate that because you've taught me a lot. And one of the things is the great vision that you had for especially the Santa Fe Public School District, because you know what, whenever we're going through this COVID stuff, this COVID epidemic, you and your team were on it way before APS and way before the other school systems. You guys were on it, and kids had Chromebooks, they had all this stuff way before this stuff even happened. And one of the things that I totally respect about you and this community respects about you is they had trust in you, and we do have trust in you. We still do. And in the board, because you gave the board direction as into how to move forward with trust. And we've passed several general obligation bonds. And because the community has trust in the school board as well as yourself, because you actually gave us good direction. And you're good, Dr. Garcia. You are good. And I just wish you the best of luck. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And thank you for, one thing I wanted to say that I told my team, as they shared their thoughts about me leaving, as I said, the best legacy and going away gift you can give me is just keep the work going. And this board is a strong board. You guys are going to keep it going. You hold that vision. And thank you for reminding me of that. That makes me feel good, right? That the work will continue further and further. And with this board and the team that we have, we will continue to be a flagship district. Why not? I always say we're in the capital city. Why not? And we're just going to keep moving forward. And I'm going to be there cheering you on and being an advocate for public education and the Santa Fe Public Schools. Always. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. I appreciate that.
One of the things about the black flagship or the black flag, yes, the black flagship that I didn't realize what that means. And what that means, that's the most important ship. Whenever you go into battle, that's the most important ship that carries that black flag, because that's a ship that wherever the admirals or whoever's on that ship or the educational, it doesn't matter, but that's the most important ship. And you taught me that one time, the black flag ship. That's actually the ship that's the stuff. But I appreciate you, and I'm still going to vote against it. Your resignation.
We're gonna have to talk about this because I don't know that you get to vote against it and I have to vote for it. I'm not sure that's fair. Secretary Bajay.
Thank you. Madam President, I thought I would give you another minute before you had to say anything else. Dr. Garcia, it has been an incredible year, and I'm so grateful that I got that time to work with you. And I've learned so much just in that short amount of time. And Rudy's right, your legacy will continue, and we will work with the amazing team that you've built. And I wish that we'd had more time, but I will not forget the lessons that I've learned and the amazing example that you've set for what it truly means to be a public servant. Thank you for everything.
It's like, thank you, Ms. Bose. And it's been an honor to work with you as well. Thank you.
One last thing, Madam President, is one thing that Dr. Garcia, you taught me that nobody out there realizes this. Nobody out there. Yeah, you want to be on the school board? Go for it. Do it. But one thing that you taught me is it's a lot more challenging and than people out there realize that. And still, me, 5 years later, 6 years later, I'm still learning how it works because you get money from the federal government, however else, public education department, it's challenging. And it's something that we all learn, as Secretary Bourget said, it's a learning experience being on the board. And you have that passion once again to actually help out the children in this community. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to say goodbye, and it comes and goes for me. It's wavy like grief is. Though I don't know that I know how to do this job without you, because I've never done it without you, and that doesn't necessarily start today. And we've got a few more months, and we've got some important stuff to do in those months, but I didn't cry when I read your letter, so I might as well do it now. Anyway, my fellow board members have said most of what needs to be said, and there will be other time to say more. But what you've given of yourself, what you have sacrificed, is huge. And the shoes you leave are huge. And we will all have to work a lot harder to do all the things. And I have no doubt that there are plenty of challenges. I mean, I've been saying for years that you keep us out of holes that we don't even know are there. And we may find some of them now, and it's going to be a challenge. And, you've built an incredible team, and I hope to everybody on the team that they know, imagine they do, that everybody has to work harder now. Everybody on the board, everybody throughout the district. And we all have to work harder through the last few months of your time with us, because we have to, figure out a lot of the things and ask you a lot of the questions that, as we think around the corners of after June 30th, what that looks like. And I'm determined to keep you for a little while because we are on a good direction. And, whether it's personally by calling on you as a friend, professionally, by asking you to, consult with the district and the new superintendent, or however this looks. I think we have to figure out how to stay on the really good track that we've been on, keep the momentum going, and continue to build the culture of, I can't even remember how many times I said it to the reporters I've talked to, but the culture that leads with both the head and the heart. And, I know you know this, Dr. Garcia, but the importance of a strong organizational culture, particularly in education that has a really good heart center, I think is enormously important. And the culture of continual process improvement that you've been saying over and over and over again. Those are a couple elements that are incredibly important to me that we keep on, and that we have to know that, we'll be okay. It'll be hard. And we may stumble a little bit, but we have a really good foundation. We have a really good path we're on. And hopefully this becomes the foundation to fly higher and do better and to keep improving. And that's what we need. So thank you. And you're not gone yet. The debt to you from this state from the educational community, from the Santa Fe community, for me personally, is, I think, impossible to quantify. It's so large, but we're gonna add a few more things to that pile still. Yeah. So,
Thank you. May I say something? Thank you,
please.
President Noble. I appreciate that. And I want to mention Ms. Price too. When you work with your board presidents, you work very closely with them. And Ms. Price and I work very closely together as president, and Ms. Noble and I have worked collaboratively and very closely, you with your president. And I've been fortunate, to have had that experience with you, Ms. Noble, and with Ms. Price, working with you as president. And I just have no doubt, the Santa Fe Public Schools, this fabulous board, the team, the community, just going to continue to soar. And I have no doubt of that. And in any way that I can be of support, to this district, that I will be. My heart is always with you guys, and I will always be, as I am able to support you in any way that is wanted, is wanted. So thank you very much for your faith in me, your support in me, and also keeping me on my toes too. You've all done a great job of that, and I appreciate that as well. Keeps me sharp. Thank you.
So that's the awkward place we find ourselves in now, is that we need to chart a path. We do have 3.5 months before this date that, Rudy also thinks that we can somehow reject. And, it's tough. It's tough to do this, but this is our job, and it is one of the big 3 things that a board needs to do. I'll go ahead and frame some things, because I've been thinking about this a lot. And again, the guidance from our attorneys is that we need to talk about this process and timeline and what we want to do and how we want to do it publicly. And we can talk about specific names and in executive session. So we will have an opportunity to do that shortly.
May I just say a word?
Absolutely, please go ahead.
I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I think we need to talk about process in executive session, and then we need to share what we've come up with the public. I just think that now is not the time to do that. But, that's my thinking. I differ with the attorney.
Yes, well, this is a tough one, because I don't know how to, if we're told that is not a viable way a viable thing to go into executive session to discuss process, I feel a little bit at a loss.
Well, we did not do this. We did not do this the last time we selected a superintendent. This is new to me. And I was on the board when we selected Dr. Garcia. And this is not what we did.
Okay. Tony does seem to be now with us in this session. Tony Ortiz is our board counsel. Tony, will you speak to this issue, please?
Hey, Tony.
Hi, everyone. And I apologize because right as I got on, I missed, Lorraine, I missed your question. So if you wouldn't mind restating it, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I think we should talk about our process in executive session and then come back and reveal that to the public. there are 4 members of the school board who have never done this. And so what are they going to talk about?
Okay, I appreciate the question, Lorraine. And would the board grant me just a moment? Can I just say something about the superintendent before I answer the question?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Oops, I'm not the board president.
So I was looking at the members of the board and I was thinking, I think Lorraine and I are the only ones who remain standing from
Yes.
the time that
Tony.
Dr. Garcia was hired.
Tony, can you
Yeah.
mention your name and for the record and who you are and what do you do? I know you too, but just
Yes.
I did that, Rudy.
Yes, Tony Ortiz, counsel for the board. And I was there when somebody proposed the brilliant idea of calling Dr. Garcia when Santa Fe was kicking around these ideas. And
Yeah, that was Linda Trujillo.
and I remember walking out to the parking lot to escort her into the office for an interview, and the kind of sheer giddiness and happiness about finding such an amazing candidate. And just a couple of quick things I want to say about Dr. Garcia. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've only presented or asked a superintendent once to present with me. And there's a reason why. She's the one. And in my presentations, because she often knows the stuff better than I do. Two, Dr. Garcia, I will miss your wonderful sense of humor. And I can tell you that from my experience in dealing with superintendents, there's often political wisdom in some, smarts on the regulations and the law in others, community know-how in others, thoughtfulness in how they manage and deal in their relationships with boards. And you almost always find gaps in superintendents, and you are the perfect storm. So I will miss that about you. I often use you as an example, not by name, but when I talk to superintendents and boards about, hey, I have this superintendent who does it this way, you'll still be my example, retired or not. So even as an attorney who does this and works with superintendents, you will be missed. And thank you for the calm waters. You're terrible for business, by the way. So thank you for the calm waters. So let me turn to Lorraine's question, and thank you, Board President, for giving me a moment. Lorraine, with regard to your question, so the Open Meetings Act allows for boards to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing the hiring of employees as one of the exceptions that you all can do. But the structures themselves, which is, how many weeks are we going to spend doing this, or, how do we want to advertise, or what headhunter service are we going to use, or, hiring service are we going to use? Those are all matters of for the public to hear and do. Now, let's say, and I'm going to reference back to Dr. Garcia's hire. When she was brought in, they brought her in and they interviewed her in executive session, and that was perfectly fine. Board can do that. But the discussions of structures, when, how, when are we voting, who are we hiring for a process, that's all public. So that's why we're doing this now and why you all are having those discussions. And if you want to talk in executive session about, if you have particular internal candidates in mind or external candidates in mind, you can have those conversations behind closed doors. But the structures, timelines, expenditures, it's all for the public meeting. Thank you.
Any follow-up, Ms. Price?
No, thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Madam President, point of personal privilege, if I may.
Absolutely.
So most of you know Joseph West, and he was working for me at the time when he was trying to reach me, and he says, I had been flying back from Baltimore, going through San Antonio and back to New Mexico. He says, Dr. Garcia, there's this lawyer that's been trying to get a hold of you. I'm like, a lawyer? why would a lawyer be trying to reach me? So I talked to Mr. Ortiz. We really had not really met in person, telling me that the board would like to have a conversation. I could barely hear him in the San Antonio airport. And I says, if it's okay, I'll call you back like at 8 o'clock at night. And sort of a joke with Mr. Ortiz and I that we both have such busy work lives that I either call him late at night or at about 6 in the morning. And because we both we both know we can reach each other at those times. So I will miss those 6 o'clock calls with you, Tony. And you've been a great counsel, sir. Thank you.
That's when you catch him on the treadmill or whatever it is Tony's doing at 6 a.m. So just to share a few thoughts on our process. And, I'd welcome anyone else's thoughts as we move through this. I couldn't agree more with Dr. Gonzalez's points that were published in the press that we have a lot of local talent. And, I think that we need to look rather close to home, first and foremost. Personally, I'm not dead set against a national search, but I really do think we have the talent in this state. And my strong preference is to look for someone who will match the strong organizational culture that has been established, who will keep us on the very good path that Dr. Garcia has set us on. And it's my preference that I think we need to have a good process that vets candidates, that involves our community, that lifts up and has representation from underserved populations in the Santa Fe Public Schools. We're a large and diverse district. And I personally believe that we can do all those things reasonably quickly. And it's my preference to enter into a reasonably aggressive timeline to try and find someone. And whether we look at somebody interim for a year or a 1-year contract or how that is, I would like our intention to be to find the next great superintendent in the next few months and empower that person as quickly as possible, and not spend a lot of time in teeth gnashing, hand wringing, and uncertainty for the community. And I think there is a balance that needs to be struck here in casting a reasonably wide net to see what talent is there. But I don't think it has to preclude moving quickly. I think that for a lot of reasons, including that we're coming out of a pandemic, I think that for a lot of reasons, there's a lot of movement right now in actually all of the working world, but education professionals included. We've heard that there are 20 superintendent vacancies for the next school year in New Mexico in our 89 school districts. So that's quite a few vacancies, but I'm not sure it's the black flagship. I think the black flag is like when you have the plague, but the flagship is the ship that carries the flag. So it's, anyway, just to keep our references straight, that, I do believe that Santa Fe is a flagship district. We have the graduation numbers to prove it right now. And so, those things, as I write down, a consistent direction, looking at local talent, our significant local talent pool, engaging community voices, particularly with representation from our underserved populations, and moving quickly. are my priorities as we go forward, as well as we'll add a fifth one, which is somebody who can keep our good path and keep us in a consistent direction, because we've come a long way under Dr. Garcia's 5 years as our superintendent, and I'd like to see us maintain that and build momentum from here. So I have a few particular questions, and I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in, but moving towards, and there's sort of buckets as to how we do this. And I think, you know, the first question as we step through this is getting a job posted. And if there are any legal requirements around how long that needs to be posted, and you know, any other sort of legal parameters we need to stay within. And Tony, I don't know if you can speak to that at this stage.
Sure, if it would be helpful to the board.
Madam President, if I may, really quick, Tony, sorry. So is this something as Board Member Price said, should we talk about this in executive session and then come out with our decision, how we're going to proceed forward?
Rudy, I believe I addressed this just a little bit ago. Your process and your process going forward, if you decide, say, for example, you're going to go a number of weeks, or you're going to hire the NMSBA structure for, you know, search and hire, those discussions have to be done out in the open. If you were going to go into executive session, you could talk about who your interim might be, or if you have because here's the thing, and the public doesn't often like to hear this, but boards can do whatever the heck they want. I mean, you guys could go into, if you agenda it up, you could go into executive session, say, I like Joe Smith. What do you guys think? Yeah, Joe's great. Let's go out and let's vote to hire Joe Smith. And you guys could do it in one meeting if you wanted. The amount of community input is discretionary and ought to remain at best advisory. This is your biggest job.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to remind board members of that, so that the process doesn't take over, and then so that the people who are having input don't think that that you have to give it away in some, you know, process. But in any event, so Rudy, I think the answer to your question is no. Process, timelines, things like that, you know, those ought to be decided in public, discussed in public. The only question is, of course, if you go into executive session and you have an interim or a permanent choice, then discussions of process and timelines and all those things go out the window. So I hope that's helpful. But let me turn back. Does that answer your question? Okay.
It does. We can do whatever we want.
Okay, let me turn back now to the original question, which was, what are the requirements? You know, in any hiring, what I would say first to you all that I think the board needs to do is to decide if you're going to involve an outside facilitator of some kind, such as the NMSBA that has a structured process. If you do that, you can bring somebody in, they'll have a meeting with you. You can sit down with them and decide, this is how long we want the application open. Here's where we want it advertised. Here are the minimum qualifications. Here's the amount of time that we're going to advertise it and accept applications. And they'll help you decide all those things. Is there a bare minimum? No, not really. I have seen districts that have hired internally and just made a decision like that. I will tell you, you know, typically I suggest board members allow themselves. I don't suggest that process. I like to see a more open, robust process, even if you have a favorite in mind. more open and robust, which would mean open it for a week, 2 weeks, take applications, and you could simply decide on your own. And you may not need a full-blown process from the NMSBA. I might suggest to you that you hear them out to see if it's something that you think you need. I have a large school district right now, the Roswell schools that I represent. The board's doing it on their own. They just set their timelines. They took in applications. They're sitting down with the interviewees that they wanted, and there you have it. They're going to make their decision. So there was no larger structure. And it seems adequate for the purposes of that community. Nobody seems, up in arms over it. So you could decide on something far more simple. It just depends on how broad of a net you want to go with, and how intricate you want. But the short answer, President Noble, is I would probably recommend something no shorter than 7 days for an open period to accept applications, and perhaps as long as 2 to 3 weeks. If you decide to just do it simply like that without an outside facilitator.
Thank you, Tony. And, just to call out what I thought Tony was going to say earlier, but maybe I'm getting better at channeling lawyers. It sounds like the legal answer is we can do what we want. We could go into executive session and name a candidate and come out and act on it today. Well, I'm not sure. We'd have to look at the agenda, but very quickly. Then there is what I know we are all holding, which is our responsibility to the organization and to the larger community. I, again, feel strongly that we need to have transparency about how we do this. And, that is clearly how the law is set up. Again, I'm ready to post a job and do some of this in parallel so that we at least have the potential to move quickly and efficiently, and to, I asked Alma to send around some of the materials from the School Boards Association. There's a 1-hour training on selecting a superintendent that I would suggest we do as a board together. And take it from there. And I think that we need to work on a number of these things again in parallel, in conjunction. We can do them at once. That's my view. Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, members of the board, do we have a job description? Am I on mute? No.
You're not on mute. You just stumped us.
President, I'd have to check with HR. I would imagine that there is one. We have the whole evaluation and the millions of things that a superintendent is supposed to be able to do,
Right.
which is considerable. And then there are features, right? But in terms of the job description versus a job posting are a little bit different, right?
Right.
Because there's certain qualities that you might be looking for in an applicant. And Howard Exner was on here a little while. Yeah, he's still on. Can be available to do that research and work with you. Mr. Exner, are you on? There he is. Yeah. So he can make himself available to work with you on that and to get it posted in the time frame that you want. And
Well, it seems like in this timeline or process and timeline that's one of the first things that we need to do is get a job description and advertisement posted if we're going to advertise out there.
Yes, and just to call out that we have moved on board discussion from the letter of retirement to the process, item B under Roman numeral 3, the process and timeline for hiring the new superintendent. And I probably should have called that out, but we have done that, and I did make that transition just emotionally. Now, Tony, you said something to me when we spoke a little while ago that was sort of, you do have Dr. Garcia for a couple months. Um,
You're not supposed to be counting.
yeah, seriously. I mean, oh my goodness. And you said, you know, charge her with helping you with this search. Can you expand on that thought for the whole board to hear, please?
Sure. Well, board members, just in transparency, when I spoke with President Noble, we were talking about options. And one of the options that I said, well, you know, Dr. Garcia has done you the favor of giving you, you know, a few months advance notice of her departure. You know, you've got a highly competent superintendent who can tell you what matters. She can help you set this up with, you know, with Howard's assistance, and you all can get your process rolling. You can charge her with doing that. There are a number of districts that do that, that get their superintendent to help them with the process, set up the structure. That's what's going on in Roswell. They have a longtime superintendent who is retiring. He's helping them through their process and helping them, you know, they're now down to their 6 final interviewees. So she could help you with that. The other benefit in that structure is that let's assume that you have your guy or gal replacement.
Not just person.
Chosen by mid-May. Well, you've still got Dr. Garcia for another month and a half, and lo and behold, you can use that time for Dr. Garcia to help transition, hear the things that are going on, hear the initiatives that are happening. This is what you need to do. I mean, that's the beauty of having your permanent, and you all can always choose an interim, but the beauty of having your permanent person step in is that you've got Dr. Garcia to convey and transition and to have some cohesiveness in terms of what you're doing. So I do think there's some benefit to transitioning from one permanent to another in a situation like this. The other thing is, last option that I conveyed to President Noble is, you know, we have in the past in other districts constructed consulting contracts for outgoing superintendents to provide assistance and transition services even after their contracts are over. So let's say you have, you know, that you don't get your replacement person in here until mid-June and you want a little extra time. You can establish a consulting situation with Dr. Garcia to help smooth that transition, even if it goes into July or August or whatever. So yes, short answer, you can charge her with helping you. Right now, she still works for you and you can tell her what to do. So anyway, that's one of the things you can give to her. Yes.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Yes, Secretary Bazay.
Well, I just have a very not organized bunch of thoughts about all the things we've talked about. One being that I'm in agreement with moving quickly. I don't want a lot of hand wringing and for us to get wrapped up in the process. I agree on that. I think that we should move very quickly to do that job description and job posting. I think it would be great if it were posted for a couple weeks and by, you know, the beginning of April, we were done with that, or the end of March or whatever we decide. I love the idea of having Dr. Garcia's guidance. I think she has a very good intuition and read about people, and that will be valuable for all of us. She truly knows so well what the job entails. And I also agree with looking locally. New Mexico is a really special place, and Santa Fe is even more kind of unique than the other places in the state that I've lived. And I think especially in the last year, we've started to see, not just with COVID, but with a whole variety of issues that are coming up, that we really need someone who understands the nuances of the culture here. And that I think if we're keeping those things in mind, and that the community will appreciate that we're not, we're not going to search high and low for someone who doesn't have any idea about what we do here, even if they're highly, highly qualified and they look great on paper. That doesn't, that's not the be all end all of what we need here. So I think that's all I have so far. Thank you.
Dr. Garcia, do you want to weigh in at all on the idea of helping us with the search? I know you have a lot to do.
Sure. I mean, actually, it's not that difficult. I was thinking we could probably get it posted by early next week. But what I want to say is, and I appreciate Ms. Bose's comments, I do want to make it clear to the public that I will help with the process and, looking at your criteria and getting you the candidates and the resumes and setting up the process for you to do your interviews and all of that. But I do think that selecting or giving input in who you would be selecting, I probably wouldn't feel comfortable doing that per se, but rather the technical process of helping you with the search. I just think that's important. That's just my thought. I don't know what the Roswell superintendent is doing, and maybe that is kosher. I really don't know, but I definitely can get your input in terms of things that you want to make sure are in the description. Get that, I mean, in the posting, because the posting is somewhat different than the job description. It will include elements of the job description, but things that you're talking about today, right? Like an understanding of New Mexico and particularly the Santa Fe community, commitment to continuous improvement, whatever. I'm just making some things up right now, but ultimately capturing what it is, the qualities that you're looking for. And we can work with Howard and get that posted. And I've done a million kinds of searches. As a matter of fact, I've actually conducted superintendent searches when I was consulting. And so I've done that work also. So I'd be happy to help with that as part of my job, for sure. But I just think there needs to be a little bit of a differentiation in terms of how, just getting in the weeds about actually picking somebody. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. But I will definitely help you with the other part of it. That's no problem. And, you just have to let me know if you want it done in a month, you want it done in 6 weeks, you want it done in 2 weeks. I can make just about anything work. It's just, a matter of what parameters you want to set. And then on qualifications, doctorate preferred masters, minimum, well, you have to have a minimum of master's degree. So I don't know whether a doctorate is preferred or not, those kinds of things, years of experience. You want someone who's been a principal, or you think X amount of years of admin experience, or, those sorts of things, I think are the things that you all need to give me input on, so that Howard and I can create a job description a posting that will garner what you're looking for in a superintendent's candidate. Howard, is there something you want to add to that?
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. We could encompass all of those things in our job description. Usually the job description starts with general functions, where you might want to describe some of the qualities that you're looking for in the superintendent before getting into the minimum expectations, training experience, knowledge, skills, and abilities, and all of those other things. So we could easily put that all into the same posting.
Thank you. And I think it was Tony who said this, or maybe it was Dr. Garcia, but we do also have the superintendent evaluation criteria that we've gone through every year from the PED. So there's at least a guideline to the structure of the public education department's expectations of that job, and the evaluation. And we can, I think, to Howard's point, add some of our own finesse and values and clarity of what we feel we're looking for in a superintendent.
Board President, I want to
But
be very clear.
Go ahead, Mr. Ortiz.
I'm sorry, I was not suggesting that the Roswell superintendent has a role with his board or a vote. That, I always recommend that the board holds tightly and closely to its very specific function and that it not give that away. So I think Dr. Garcia's instincts on that are correct.
Yes.
I did want to add, though, you asked me my thought. I mean, you can go formal this way and have a posting. You can decide that you just want to call people in, as Mr. Ortiz said, and interview, that the board members can solicit names or however they want to do it. And you interview. I mean, there's no requirement that you have a posting, or you can do it formally, as we were just discussing, is my understanding. I think that's what Mr. Ortiz was saying earlier. You really, it's really up to you how you want to handle it. But if you go that way, yes, I will do that.
Okay, thank you. It looks like our district council, Josh Granata, has his hand up. Mr. Granata.
Thank you, Board President. Board members, Dr. Garcia, I just wanted to point out to the board that there is a board policy about the superintendent's position, and it may be helpful for Howard and Dr. Garcia and Tony and the board as well to take a look at that. It lists basically the statutory and regulatory duties of the superintendent, and so that could be helpful in drafting the items that you're discussing right now.
Great. Can you email that to us, please? Maybe
I'll do that
now.
Certainly.
Thank you. So, other thoughts from board members? Yes, Dr. Gonzalez.
President Noble, members of the board, Dr. Garcia, I think we move, if we're going to post or do anything like that, we ought to move fairly quickly. We shouldn't wait weeks or months. It should be a couple of weeks, if that's how we decide to go.
Okay. So, if there's, obviously board members speak up if there's more to say, but given Mr. Ortiz's comments and Dr. Garcia's comments, I'm thinking that it makes sense to move on to Roman numeral 4 on our agenda to talk about particular folks we might be thinking about, and to I would also suggest at this stage, I had asked both Mr. Ortiz and Dr. Garcia to join us in executive session. I would suggest at this stage that we start as just the board, as this is ours, and I think that we need to talk about it as a board, and if at any stage we feel that it would be helpful for Dr. Garcia or Mr. Ortiz to join us in executive session, we can text them and invite them in at that point.
This is Lorraine.
Yes, go ahead, Lorraine.
I agree that we should post as soon as possible or advertise as soon as possible, because good applicants are being snapped up right as we speak. So I agree there.
And do you have any, or Dr. Gonzalez, do either of you have any feelings as to what that job posting or job description or listing should look like? And, as Mr. Granata said, we do have a board policy, which we glance at.
We also should pull up what we did the last time and look at that. We don't necessarily, we have something to start with, you know what I mean?
So, Madam President, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, how we've done other sorts of documents where I can get input from the board members and be able to come, then work with you, board president, or if you appoint yourself and one other person to finalize that. You know, you all could have a week to think about it, you know, and we can get that out, work on that the following week. And then I think you just need to decide, you know, maybe take action tonight. Like we'd like to have it posted in 2 weeks. And superintendent, we'd like you to have it close in 2 weeks. And that, you know, those actions then allow me to move forward and work with you, because it's not going to be that difficult to get the posting and the job description done. I mean, there are already, I mean, there's other districts that have them. There's so many of them. We probably have our own board policy. I don't think it's going to be a heavy lift, quite frankly. You know, we'll then, if you want us to, in terms of HR, part of their process is vetting the candidates in terms of, do they meet the qualifications? Do they have certification? You know, that sort of thing. Do they have licenses, or will they be licensed in the state of New Mexico? You know, the basic stuff that you don't want to have to worry about. And then you can then give me guidance later about process, if that's the way you decide you want to go, or you want to go with a more informal process. And maybe you'll decide that after you meet by yourselves. When you discuss candidates, I guess, maybe that will give you a better sense, right, Tony? Because they can't talk about process there. But I guess if they're talking about individuals, that would maybe guide them as to how they want to go.
Go ahead, Dr. Gonzalez, I apologize.
Oh, no. Madam President, members of the board, I'm assuming that to be a superintendent, you have to have administrator's license. That you don't, if you have a doctorate in education, that's not good enough. It has to have an administrative license. Okay.
If I may speak to the earlier question that was raised by Dr. Garcia.
Sure, go ahead.
Just very quickly. You know, the executive session, if you go in and you have a candidate that the board just wants to roll with soon, or at least a favorite, then that may resolve your issue. But barring that, then the option would be to, as Dr. Garcia suggested, come out, perhaps set some deadlines or guidelines for her in terms of getting advertisements out, getting job descriptions done. And by the way, thank you, Josh Granata, for the very fast. I just viewed the policy, so thank you for sending that to me. But in terms of getting those materials up and out, if you all don't have somebody in mind, then the next best thing tonight is set your targets and let the superintendent go.
Thank you. Secretary Bozay.
Thank you, Madam President. I just also on the lines of talking process before we go into executive, that my opinion is that we try to not appoint an interim, because I do think that it's important to have someone that can be empowered. We're coming out of a very difficult year, and we need to keep momentum and moving forward and keep things cohesive and strong. And I think that an interim might work against that. I do think it's important that we do the NMSBA training that you recommended, although I don't think it's necessarily important that we work with them. So those were my last thoughts on the process.
Okay, thank you very much. So I guess with that, Secretary Bozay, would you consider a motion to take us into executive session? Unless there's further discussion.
Yes, Madam President. Yes, I would like to move that I would like to make a motion that we move into executive session to discuss limited personnel matters.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Any objections to my suggestion that we start as just the board?
No.
Okay.
No, ma'am. I agree.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on going into executive session. Vice President Garcia,
Yes.
Secretary Boze,
Yes.
Board Member Price,
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Okay, so we have another link for executive session, which Alma has sent. Ms. Price, do you have the numbers for that?
I do.
Okay, great. We will meet in executive session, and I would say, I would expect us to be there no more than an hour, as per usual, maybe even less, just in terms of managing expectations of the thousands watching, or millions, or however many we've established that it is. But we appreciate everyone who does tune in to school board business, because we know you're special, and we are too. So thank you.
I will keep my phone on me in case you need me, President Noble. and board
Okay,
members.
and Dr. Garcia, Mr. Ortiz, if that's all right, I will text you if we reach a point where we would like you to join us in executive session.
Thank you.
Or let us know when you're coming out so we can be back for the meeting.
Absolutely. Yep. Dr. Garcia, I'll text you, and I'm not sure how the rest of that goes for everybody else, but we'll let you figure that out between now and then. Okay, thank you very much. And board members, we'll see you on the other link. I see 3, I see 4, I see Dr. Garcia. I think
Rudy?
we're waiting on Lorraine. And otherwise, we're all here. And Carmen's an empty chair, but there she is. I was going to say, I'm sure she's within earshot. All right. Let's see. I'm sure Alma is working on Lorraine, or Lorraine is working on dialing, or both.
Yeah, Lorraine's not in yet.
Yep.
Madam President, if I may, I don't know if we're live or not, doesn't matter, but I just want to thank my colleagues as into being on the board and working with our great superintendent and her entire staff, and being a policymaker and working for the community. It's not an easy job. We talked about earlier as into, sometimes you lose sleep, and I lose sleep. And I just want to thank my colleagues as into, stepping up to the plate and say, we're going to do this, and we are going to do it, and we have passion for this. And so I just want to thank my colleagues because, people can sit out there and chat, and do whatever you do, Snapchat, whatever else. But, my colleagues, us, it's not an easy job, and especially when it comes to policy making. And so I just want to thank you all. Thank you.
And thank you. It's so true. Public service is wonderful and hard, and probably not for everybody. Okay, well, it'd be good to get started, but we still don't have
Madam President, you
Lorraine.
want me to check and see what's going on?
If you would, that'd be great. I'm sure she's probably trying to find the right numbers again. And although I had an interesting thing going into executive session, which my link just didn't work this time. I clicked the same link 5 times, and the 5th time it worked.
Madam President, are
Yeah.
we live yet or not?
We are live on YouTube.
Okay.
And we were before. When we come back from executive, we don't have any reprieve because actually there's just this long chunky period that, just says currently in executive session, but the broadcast continues. They don't stop the broadcast once we've started a meeting.
All right, so I just want to make it clear that we actually are going to explain to the general public that where we at, what we discussed, no action items. However, where we're going and what we're going to do, and you'll do a great job with it.
Madam President, should I bring us out of executive session?
We're going to move on to our action items when we come out of executive session. Dr. Garcia's calling Board Member Price, so let's give a moment.
Okay.
It would be, we did have her, of course, in her spunky mood in executive session.
So good to have her back.
Yeah.
So good.
And she is the one who has been through this before.
Haven't been able to reach her, but it went to voicemail, so she might be trying to call in.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm trying to get find my way back to my agenda. Why don't we move slowly in coming back from executive session, Secretary Bozay?
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to bring us out of executive session where we discuss limited personnel matters regarding possible candidates for hire as superintendent. There was no action taken.
Gosh, it feels like we haven't done this in a long time, and we do, that's a motion, right?
Second.
I believe so.
Okay, and we will take a roll call vote coming out of executive session. Vice President Garcia,
Yes.
Secretary Bozet,
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
At this stage, we don't have Board Member Price yet, and the president also votes yes. So coming out of executive session, we will move on our agenda to our action items. Item A is,
Yeah, hold on. She's trying to call in, but it's not working. So I'm going to see what's going on, Madam President.
thank you. So our first action item is the acceptance of retirement letter of Dr. Veronica C. Garcia. Well, of course, Dr. Veronica C. Garcia is working hard to make it all work for us as ever. Tony, I believe you're here, and I don't know if you heard, I think you did.
Lorraine.
Hi, Lorraine. Madam President, she's going to come on through my phone. Okay.
Thank you.
You got it.
Yes.
Can you hear us, Lorraine?
Yes. But,
all right.
Do you want me to do the rest of the meeting through this phone, or do you have another number?
The code that we gave you, Ms. Price, is the only code and link that we have. And I understand you guys tried it 3 times. So if it's not working, in the interest of time, I'll just patch you through. It'll work.
So you want me to
just stay on
the rest of the meeting on this? I can't do it on this phone.
You can't
You'll
hear.
You'll have to. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm being given help with my phone.
Kate, did you have a question for me?
I did, which was on the action item. I don't know if you heard Vice President Garcia's questions earlier that he wanted to table the item of accepting Dr. Garcia's retirement letter, which goes along with the brief discussion you and I had, which was, I think I said, do we have to? Can't we just say, no, we're not accepting it? And you said, no, you have to. So for the benefit of the other board members and the public, will you explain, please?
Sure. So as much as we'd like to make her keep on going, it really is just a matter of cleanliness for purposes of your paperwork and your audits and everything that an employee tenders a resignation. There's an acceptance. If it were any other employee, like if someone below Dr. Garcia had tendered a resignation, my advice to her would be send them a letter that says we accept your resignation, and then that brings closure to that issue, and you can next move to the next step. So as her supervisor for cleanliness of paperwork, audits, etc., personnel files, that's the only reason that you say yes. I know you may want to vote no, but it's really just an ministerial matter.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Tony on the action of accepting the letter of retirement?
Madam Chair, this is Rudy. Once again, I probably won't get a second, but I vote to table this item.
What do you think that's going to achieve? It's going to gum things up.
With all, I'm just, as policymakers, we have to have a good little, have some fun with stuff, because a couple of individuals, attorneys, legal counsel, as well as a couple of individuals that work for the New Mexico School Board Association. They pulled me aside one day. You know, Rudy, you have the best or one of the best superintendents in the state. And so that just saddens me as into, I understand what she needs to do. And she needs the passion that he has for this district, for kids. statewide, so on and so forth. So it just saddens me as into, she needs to do what she needs to do. I understand that.
Thank you.
And we need to sanction her, kind of goodbye, I guess, for lack of better terms. And I'm just kind of, but that's why I'm bringing this up. You know, Rudy likes to have a little bit of a, but that's why I'm bringing this up, because it's like, it's kind of saddens me as into Dr. Garcia, you are like associate members for the school board association or attorneys have said, you know, they pull me. So I said, you know, let me tell you something, Rudy. Let's go have lunch. You do have the best superintendent in the state. And so it saddens me as in to see an individual that has passion for this community as well as statewide and for any children in this nation, because as policymakers, nobody realizes nationwide, public schools is hard and it's difficult. And as policymakers and the superintendent we have passion for this stuff. And so it just saddens me to see her leave. But she will still be with the district and she will give us the utmost excellent advice and opinions that we need. And so I'm just saying, you know, I don't want her to see her leave, but she needs to do what she needs to do, and we will move on. And Veronica, Dr. Garcia, I myself will miss you because you've taught me a lot of things that I've been there for a while now. And there's a lot more things that the community does not know about when it comes to public education. Because everybody can sit out there and say, this and point fingers or chat, or a comment. You know, step in the shoes and do it. But Dr. Garcia, I actually, I respect you. And I've never known somebody that has, once again, the ultimate most respect for, and the passion for education for kids in this state and this community. And so that's all I want to say, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam President.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, members of the board, do we need a motion?
We do.
I move that we accept her resignation, although I don't want to, but we have to.
Madam President, go ahead.
I was going to say, I will second for the purposes of discussion and moving forward. Dr. Garcia, I just want to confirm this is, you don't want to pull back that letter at this stage, just before we vote on this?
You know, I hate to disappoint people, so you know, this is killing me. You know, if I could, I would say, okay, I'll stay, you know, and I wish I could, because it breaks my heart to say that, no, I have made my decision, and it just kills me to disappoint and to have people sad and know that we have so much more to do that I would like to be a part of, you know, and leading the district. But unfortunately, yes, I must stay with my intent to resign June 30th with a heavy heart for sure. Thank you.
Okay, anything further from the board? Ms. Board Member Price, I just want to check we can hear you. You can hear us.
Go ahead, say it again, Ms. Price.
This is Lorraine. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And you can hear us all right? You heard the motion?
Yes, I heard the motion and I can hear you.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and do a roll call vote then, if there's nothing further from the board. Vice President Garcia.
This is hard for me, but I know I don't have the votes. However, Dr. Garcia, you know, excellent job as in what you've done for this district. You know, people out there don't realize what you've done, and I do, and I see it. And my district is very an interesting district as into low to moderate income individuals, and you and the board has helped out my district, and it's good. Breaks my heart, but you need to do what's good for you. And I still want to vote no, but I guess I will vote yes. Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Gonna miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll miss you too. Thank you.
Secretary Bozay.
Very reluctantly, yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
The same, reluctantly, yes.
Board Member Price.
Yes, sadly.
Yes. And very reluctantly, very sadly, with a heavy heart, the president also votes yes. We have accepted Dr. Garcia's letter of retirement. Moving on to action item B, adoption of process and or timeline. And I think we have been clear that we want to move quickly. Dr. Garcia has graciously said that she will help us in this process. And as she is the one employee really of the board, and we have her again for another 2.5 months, three and a half months. It seems to make sense that we go ahead and get a job up. Does anyone want to make a motion as to what we should do as for process and timeline? I guess I'm prepared to take a shot at it, and I won't be hurt if you don't like it and need to amend the motion. So let's see. I will go ahead and move. Dr. Garcia, you have said, I'm sorry, I'm not moving. I'm asking a question of the superintendent. You have said that you think it wouldn't be too complicated to get a job posting up. And I think I'm inclined to a job posting, and that ideally you could run it by board members to make sure that there's no heartache. You also talked earlier about having myself and another board member work on that with you. And I'd say I'd like to do that. Would it be reasonable to publish by March 22nd, the Monday after spring break? Are you taking next week off?
Well, I mean, in as much as I ever take time off, as a matter of fact, I was taking tomorrow off and it turned out that's not going to work out. I mean, I really never off. I think that, Mr. Exner, what do you think? Or could we ask until maybe Wednesday, just to be on the safe side? Were you going to be off next week?
We would have no problem meeting that deadline, Dr. Garcia.
On Monday? To post on Monday? Yeah, I mean, I don't mind visiting with you while I'm, while I'm on vacation. It's not a big deal. No problem. Yeah, we can get it done.
I'm actually taking 11 next week off, but anyway.
We'll figure it out. Even if it's over on the weekend, if it's us working over on Google Docs, we can make it happen.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we could probably crank out a lot tomorrow, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Is there another board member who would like to volunteer to workshop this tomorrow and through bits of next week, whether you're taking some vacation or not?
I'd be happy to, Madam President.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Carmen Gonzalez. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion now. The motion is that we will, that the board recognizes that we need to move quickly and would like to get a job posted, I'll say the week of March 22nd, ideally that first day, as early as possible that week. That Dr. Gonzalez and I will work with Dr. Garcia on the job posting, that it will be, that other board members will be given a chance to review before it goes live, and that we will have it open for 2 weeks and move into interviews fairly quickly thereafter. And that yes, the job, I will say, the job description or posting, again, as you said, Dr. Garcia, they're two different things. So my motion is about a posting. Will include many of the priorities and values discussed by the board, including good local knowledge, context, that sort of thing.
See a little bit there.
So that's my motion, as long-winded as it was. Is there a
I
second?
will second that.
Thank you, Secretary Bozay. Any further discussion? Dr. Gonzalez, I'm not sure if you were just unmuted for a moment or if you were weighing in.
Madam President, this is Rudy.
Hello.
For an individual that is a policymaker, as a superintendent, on Sunday, she calls us, like, why she call me on Sunday? Really? Or 9:30 at night, 10:30 at night, whenever there's something happening in my district, involving police officers or whatnot, whatever else. She works 24/7, like she said. And as a policymaker, you don't realize that individual that works for you or works for the community is working 24/7. And like I said, I talked to her for an hour on Sunday while I was having breakfast with my aunt. And why is Dr. Garcia called me on Sunday? Something's going on. And so we talked, and 9:30 at night, 10:30 at night, she actually calls us, texts us, and says, you know, this is what's happening with the whatever police department, so on and so forth. And as Dr. Garcia said, you know, she doesn't sleep at night. No duermo. What that means in Spanish, in English, is like, I don't sleep. She doesn't sleep. And she keeps us advised as to what's happening, what's going on out there in definitely my community. And so I appreciate her when she says she works 24/7, because sometimes policymakers realize that individual works 24/7. Yes, they do. And so it's just hard for me, but yes, I will accept your motion, and yes, I vote for it.
I'm not voting yet. Sorry.
Well, sorry. I'm a little bit ahead of the game, but it's just kind of like,
yeah, I was not yet calling the roll. I wanted to ask Mr. Ortiz, and just to make sure that it's out there, as we talked about some of the candidates, some of the names that have been in discussion. Mr. Ortiz, can you give us guidance on board members? We are likely to hear from community members. We are likely to have ideas about people who might be superintendent. Can you give us any parameters as to how we should guide ourselves as we move forward and as the job is open and people start to apply and we start to do interviews?
Okay, so I mean, the short answer is ethically and carefully. When you are approached, I would suggest that board members be polite, certainly be receptive. People can, may come up to you and say, I think Mr. Jones is fantastic. You ought to consider him. You can take those comments. I would be very, very careful about showing favoritism or leanings or saying I'll put in a good word for him or anything like that suggests that you are putting your thumb on the scale in any way that is not okay. And just, keep your cards close to your vest, go through the process, vote your conscience at the end, and be careful the way you present yourself. You're representative of the community. I don't think I need to remind any of you of that. So be fair, and I think and the appearance of fairness and transparency matters as well. So that will matter for the process. That'd be the only advice. Fairly simple.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to get a job posting up, to have it open for 2 weeks, and to begin interviews very soon thereafter. And to do those interviews. Yeah, that's the motion. Any further discussion?
Madam President, really quick, this is Rudy. Once again, I just want to bring forward, Monday was International Women's Day. And for all you women out there, I'm the only guy member on the board, but International Women's Day was Monday, and all you women out there do an excellent job. Dr. Garcia, Dr. Gonzalez, and Bose, nurse, and you as well, Mrs. Noble. You know, that's awesome. But can we? Just kidding. So is the motion on the table?
There's a motion. I'm about to call for a vote, and I had said any further discussion.
Okay. No, thank you.
We could talk about Women's History Month if we want to as well, but no, we're going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. If there is no further discussion, I will.
President, just to be
Yes.
sure.
Uh-huh.
Did you guys get a second on your motion?
Ms. Bose.
Okay, so thank you. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure you had that.
Yeah, Secretary Bose seconded my motion, which I think is clear, if long-winded. We're now going into voting. Vice President Garcia.
I always have to vote second, but yes, I vote for it.
Secretary Bose.
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Price.
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank you. And the president votes yes. We will be placing this on future agendas to talk more about because there's still a lot to unpack here. But I just want to say that I appreciate, and this is where clearly this is one of the big three of what the board does. I appreciate my fellow board members. So glad that we have Board Member Price, who has been through this before, and everybody's thoughtfulness. You know, it would be great not to be in this position, just to lay it on a little bit thick for Dr. Garcia, but we are, and I appreciate everyone's professionalism. Thank you, Mr. Ortiz, and to everybody at the Santa Fe Public Schools, Mr. Granada, Mr. I always worry I'm going to say Howard's name wrong, Exner. And, you know, we'll step through this. We'll step through this as a community. This is the board's job, as I've said, and, you know, we will continue to put it on the agenda. Board members, as ever, please let Alma know or let me know directly if there is a particular thing you would like noticed on our agenda for us to be able to talk about. And I appreciate everybody's commitment to transparency and being speedy and doing this well, because I think it's pretty clear we all believe we can, and that there are some very good candidates out there. Okay, moving on to advanced planning. We have our next regular meeting scheduled for April 1st. And I think that will be fine. We will have posted a job for the superintendent there. Dr. Garcia, do you see any need for us to meet before then?
Madam President, I don't. I think we have our work cut out. We have our marching orders, and we will get that. We'll work on getting that job posted for you. And no, I don't think there's a need for an interim meeting between now and April 1st.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Garcia reminded me in a conversation we had today that she will be preparing the budget. We do adopt our budget before June 30th. So we do have on our advanced planning a finance subcommittee listed on April 8th. And that will be, as ever, fast and furious budget analysis. And it's a complicated year. The good news is there's some stimulus money coming from the federal government. We hope our state representatives will do well for us and hold us harmless, as we've previously discussed. But you know, we've got a lot of work to do, so we'll be seeing a lot of each other. Anything else on advanced planning?
Madam President, members of the board, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any final comments before we adjourn?
It's on, our next meeting is on April 1st, which is April Fool's Day.
Yes, that's correct.
I just want to make note of that, and that's also the anniversary of when my house burned down.
My goodness, that's a
So,
complicated day.
What an interesting day, huh?
Right.
I called to tell my parents. My father wouldn't believe me. He thought I was doing an April Fool's joke.
Of course he did. It would seem like one.
So, that's it.
Okay, that's it. Thank you all very much. We'll see you on April Fool's Day. We'll be in touch with Dr. Garcia in the meantime. Appreciate your service. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Take care.